Well, excuse my absence for the last couple days because being that weed is now legal in Ohio, I've been celebrating. But unfortunately, it's not going to be legal for 30 days, so me celebrating got me thrown in jail. So, no, I'm only kidding. I just been enjoying the whole fucking thing that basically something turned out right in this weird ass state. So, here's my dog playing games here too. So, anyway, someone suggested for this month that I focus on turkeys. But didn't that whole golden turkey thing years ago, that was like the flavor of the day, and a lot of the films that they, shit all over weren't bad films, like Sabata and Horror Party Beach and some other ones that they basically, did the whole Mystery Science Theater deal on, which, some of these were pretty decent films, so I didn't want to go that route. But I figured, why not make up a list of what I consider real fucking turkeys? As this dog's going to sneeze. Bless you. Can I do this now? Thank you. So, I had to pull out 10 films that I consider complete fucking turkeys. And number one on the list is 1946's Valley of the Zombies, which is unique considering I, looked at this, 40s, I figured I was going to see like a Mantan Moreland type of deal with zombies shuffling around and shit, and no. This film had a noticeable lack of zombies. A little twisted plot, perhaps, but a noticeable lack of zombies. And it was also one of the first Republic double bill horrors. Was put out with the equally, as far as I'm concerned, bad Catman of Paris. And number two for our little turkey films is something called Sunscorch from 1965. A spaghetti western, also known as Jesse Does Not Forgive, He Kills. Well, I bought this on a lark off of eBay, 16 millimeter print, and, a 90-minute film is on two 45-minute reels. Well, the first reel ran out with absolutely positively nothing fucking happening, and the second reel was almost run out until I realized I just basically nodded out and spilled my drink in my crotch, waking me up for the whatever gunfight was there. Oddly, this film, completely sucked. It has, Mariana Koch and Mario Odorf, I guess. Whatever the fuck it is. Mariana Koch was in Fistful of Dollars, so I figured maybe there was something here, but there wasn't. Number three, The Vulture. I've already spoken about The Vulture, for there's no reason for me to go into graphic detail about that film, and you can just back off a couple episodes. Number four is actually two films. Brannigan from 1975 and McHugh from 1974, starring the Duke, John Wayne. Obviously, someone in his camp pointed out the success that Clint Eastwood was having with Dirty Harry, and maybe the Duke should follow suit and become a detective or a cop or something like that. Well, the sight of the Duke lumbering along out of shape with that horrible toupee on and an ill-fitting suit really made me long for him to go back to doing westerns, which is what he does best. So, number four is a doubleheader, McHugh and Brannigan. Number five was the first movie I ever convinced my mother to let me see on Chiller, 1958's Giant from the Unknown, which is another film that completely sucks. There's a killing in the beginning that has nothing to do with the movie because the titular giant isn't resurrected until later on in the film when a bolt of lightning hits its grave. So it meanders on and off. The giant was played by Buddy Bear, who was actually the uncle of Max Bear Jr., Jethro, from Beverly Hillbillies. Number six is something called Screamers, the retitled Island of the Fishmen, which I guess was a fantasy by Sergio Martino, was picked up by New World. 15 minutes of footage was shot and added on to that with the thing on the one sheet. You will see a man turned inside out. Well, the only thing you got turned inside out on this was your fucking wallet, because this film has hardly anything going for it in the U.S. version. Cameron Mitchell and Mel Ferrar are there because Cameron is at my bookie outside waiting in the car. Mitchell, I guess, needed some cash, so these two basically are an opening prequel. They were both killed, I think. But anyway, maybe Island of the Fishmen, uncut, in the original form, might be good, but Screamers sucked balls. And one on this is on everybody's bad Thanksgiving list, Blood Freak from 1972, starring Steve Hawkes, a Croatian immigrant who really loved Johnny Weissmuller and made his own Tarzan films. And in this one, this is like one of those anti-drug films where he basically hallucinates that he turns into a giant fucking capon or something like that. There's a gore scene in the film where a guy gets his leg cut off with a ripsaw and is basically holding the stump for a half hour, shooting blood all over the place. Oddly, this was one of those films that was picked up by Regal Home Video. You remember those guys, the clamshell boxes where the movies didn't match the box? Well, they advertised Blood Freak as a Dracula on drugs on the cover. I wish I actually had the box, but I don't. Number 8. Anybody who thought Return of the Ape Man was the sequel to The Ape Man was in for a rude awakening. This was from 1944. Basically, it's Lugosi as another mad scientist thawing out a caveman who was supposed to be George Zucco, and in several of the lobby cards, the caveman is definitely George Zucco, but he got ill before the film could start and had to bow out. He was replaced by Cleveland boxer Frank Moran, who had his nose pretty much spread all over his face. And George actually still got third billing because that was in his contract. John Carradine's in there, but I believe they snatch his brain and put it in the Ape Man. There's some tender moments like the Ape Man climbing through a window where you can basically see his boxer shorts under his caveman outfit. Again, and the music is typical of Monogram Pictures because it's like recycled from the Bowery Boys and other films. So yeah, Return of the Ape Man 1944 is a stinker. A bigger stinker, however, is 1951's Two Lost Worlds with James Arness. And the selling point of this whole movie on the poster and in the trailers is this huge dinosaur fight, which only is in the last few minutes of the film, and it's lifted from 1 million BC, that movie. Which basically every fucking 50s movies involving dinosaurs had to lift a scene from 1 million BC. And last but not least is from 1977's Fight for Your Life, aka Staying Alive, and this was distributed by William Mishkin, who knew exactly what he was doing, because if there was going to be a film that would rile up audiences to the point of rioting, it was Fight for Your Life. It's a racist, terrible fucking film with William Sanderson in it. Well, I'm sure he kept this off his resume for a while. 3 convicts break out of prison, and it starts in New York by the Lincoln Tunnel and ends up in Morristown, New Jersey, where they basically invade a black family's house and basically torment them for the duration of the film. And there's some horrible shit going on, like a little kid getting beaten to death by a rock, some rape, some other violence. It all ends well when Jesse Lee Kane, the Sanderson character, gets his throat blown out by the Reverend. This is one of those movies that when I saw it, I was like, am I going to get the fuck out of this theater alive? And thankfully, I was sitting next to an exit and booked right when the credits started to roll. So that's my 10 list of some turkeys. There may be some argument, among you guys about these turkeys, but nevertheless, they are my 10th list of 10 turkeys. And again, let me push the website, www.42ndstreetpete.net, where you can buy Grindhouse Resurrection 1 and 2, Two-Fisted Tales of Times Square, A Whole Bag of Crazy, and Gunfighters of the Drunken Master, if you're so inclined. So that's our show for today. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for subscribing, and we'll be back with more mayhem shortly.